back to that time?
Well, it was a time, it was just after the 1970 uprising in July 1970. I applied on the 13th of July, I applied for a passport. And on the 29th of July, I sailed away to 50 years ago, actually, next month. I sailed to Savile Row rather than sail into England or sail into Europe. Coming from very humble beginnings, I came actually, Mount St. Benedict. Then there's a valley, there's a river, and there's another mountain going towards the east. I was born up in the hills up there. It was squatting land. My father found a bit of the hill, and he had dug down on the side of it to create a flat surface and built a board house. And that's where I was born. And so, coming from that kind of environment, very humble beginnings, I had heard as I grew up, I had heard of Savile Row, but I had been interested in creating clothing from a very young age. So I didn't have cloth, so I used to cut up newspapers and pin it together and stick it together and try to create garments, rather like you might describe as the origami of clothing. Mm-hmm. Try to create clothing. But I used to always observe as a very, very young age. My mother reminded when I was 9, when I cut up a pillowcase and made a pair of trousers. Well, something loosely resembling pants, perhaps pajama pants, if you like. But that was the very early beginnings of having an interest in sewing and creating garments. And I sought an apprenticeship, but my father wouldn't allow me to leave school and take up that apprenticeship because he wanted me to go on to Hillview College. Because the career pathway was naturally all parents wanting their children to be educated and to in our case, certainly have a better education or better opportunities than my father had. And so he didn't want me to go on to college. But I was determined. I was determined that I wanted to be a tailor. So I spent all my evenings after school and my weekends and my holidays hanging around a tailor shop. By that time, I was about 10, 11 years old. I did my 11 plus exam, and because I was born in November, I had an opportunity to do it twice, which wasn't good news for me because I didn't want to go to college. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I did my 11 plus the first time, I failed. And the second time around, it was much easier to fail because it was a multiple choice test. And it was easier to choose the wrong answer than it was to choose the right answer. And so I thought, I actually deliberately failed my common entrance